Have you ever left someone's house feeling more exhausted than when you arrived? As if the conversation didn't bring you joy but instead weighed you down even more? You visited them hoping for a friendly chat, yet when you left your spirit felt drained and your emotions felt heavy, like carrying an invisible burden. I have experienced this myself, and I believe many of you have been in the same situation. When we were younger, it was easier to brush it off, to consider it just an unpleasant conversation. But as we grow older, every passing day becomes more precious. I started asking myself, is my time really worth spending on interactions that leave me feeling drained? After turning 70, I realized that how I use my time, and especially whom I spend it with, greatly affects my peace and happiness. Not everyone deserves our company. There are people, whether they are old friends, relatives, or acquaintances, who every time we meet them leave us feeling tense and exhausted. Their words, their conversations do not bring us joy. Instead, they add to our worries and anxieties. Is it really worth it? I have thought deeply about this, and I want to share something important with you. Old age is not the time to force ourselves to maintain relationships that only bring us harm. If someone consistently makes us feel heavy-hearted and robs us of our inner peace, then the best thing to do is keep our distance, no matter who they are. So, who are these people, and how can we avoid them while still preserving our inner peace? In today's video, I will share 4 types of people I have learned to stay away from, allowing me to enjoy a truly peaceful and happy old age. And be sure to watch until the end, because if we fail to recognize these toxic relationships early on, we might unknowingly lose our own peace of mind. 1. The chronic complainer. Everything is a problem. Have you ever met someone who, no matter how good life is, always finds something to complain about? When the sun is shining, they complain about the heat. When it rains, they grumble about the humidity. If their children call to check on them, they say it's just out of obligation. If no one calls, they complain about being abandoned. Everything, big or small, is a problem to them. I once knew someone like this. Every time I visited her, I hadn't even sat down yet before she started. Joint pain, rising prices, inconsiderate neighbors. I tried to listen, thinking maybe she just needed to vent a little. But no, it was always the same. Her conversations revolved around endless dissatisfaction with everything around her. If the TV was on, she would shake her head and say, "The world is falling apart." If we talked about family, she would sigh, "Back in my day, we endured so much without complaining. Nowadays, young people have it easy, yet they don't appreciate their parents." No matter how much I tried to console or encourage her, she would always find a new reason to complain. At first I thought, it's fine, I'll visit her just to keep her company. But then I noticed that every time I left, I felt drained. It was as if I had absorbed all of her frustrations and negativity. I also realized I wasn't the only one. Everyone who visited her left with a heavy heart. The problem is that negativity is contagious. When you are around someone who always sees the world through a dark lens, you too start seeing everything in a negative light. They don't just complain about their own life. They make you feel like everything around you is terrible too. Over time, you start feeling that life is heavier than it actually is, even if you were doing fine before. I reflected on this a lot. Should I really leave every visit feeling worse than when I arrived? Should I keep listening to these endless complaints out of politeness? I decided to change how I approached these interactions. Instead of letting myself be drawn into their negativity, I learned to keep a healthy distance. When someone starts complaining, I gently steer the conversation towards something more positive. If they say it's too hot, I say, "But at least the weather is perfect for drying clothes, right?" If they grumble about high prices, I say, "Yes, but I recently found a great place with discounts." If they refuse to move away from negativity, I either stay silent or find a polite way to end the conversation. Most importantly, I remind myself that I am not responsible for carrying other people's negativity. I can care for them, I can listen, but that doesn't mean I have to let their negativity become my own burden. If a relationship does not bring joy, does not make me feel better, then perhaps it's time to limit it. At this stage of life, my days should be lighthearted and peaceful. I no longer want to spend my precious time with those who only pull others down. I choose to be with people who bring peace, warmth, and laughter. And I realize now this is one of the best decisions I have ever made. 2. The opportunist only calls when they need something. I don't know about you, but I once had an acquaintance like this. For many years, every time my phone rang, I would smile as I picked it up, thinking perhaps they were calling just to check in, to share a happy story, or simply to say they missed me. But no. Every call followed the same familiar script. After a few polite greetings, they would quickly get to the point. Hey, are you free this week? I have a little favor to ask. Or, I know only you can help me with this. At first, I didn't think much of it. I believed that helping others was the right thing to do, especially since I still had the ability to do so. But then, I started noticing something. They only reached out when they needed me. On days when I was sick, when I was struggling, they were nowhere to be found. Not a single call, not a single word of concern, but the moment they had a problem, suddenly, I was the first person they thought of. I still remember one time when I had severe back pain and was bedridden for an entire week. No one knew, no one asked, but the very day I started feeling better, my phone rang. Hey, could you watch my grandchild for a day this weekend? I have something important to do. Not a single word asking how I was doing, whether I was feeling better, or if I needed anything. Just a request. As if I were a free service they could use whenever it suited them. That was when I realized I was not important to them. They didn't see me as a friend, a relative, or someone they genuinely cared for. I was just a convenience. Someone who could help them when they needed it, and someone to be forgotten the moment they didn't. This made me think a lot. Was it worth it? How much time and effort had I wasted on people who never truly cared about me? Had I ever received anything in return? The answer was no, and the most painful realization? When I actually needed help, I couldn't call any of them. That was when I decided to change. I started learning how to say no. The next time they called with a familiar request, I calmly responded, "I'm sorry, but I can't help this time." At first they seemed surprised. Some even tried to convince me with words like, "Oh, but I don't know what I'd do without you." But I stood my ground, and something interesting happened. As I started refusing, the calls became less frequent. They stopped reaching out to me. And that was when I realized the truth. They never really needed me. They only needed what I could do for them. I decided to test this dynamic. If I needed help, would they be willing to return the favor? I called one of these people, someone who had frequently asked for my help in the past, and made a very simple request. "I'm a bit busy this week, could you help me with something small?" And the answer was always the same. "Oh, I'd love to, but I'm really busy too. Maybe another time." At that moment it became clear to me this was never about mutual support. It was a one-sided relationship built on convenience. After turning 70, I no longer want to waste my time and energy on relationships like that. I choose to focus on the people who truly appreciate me. Those who are there not just when they need something, but also when I need them. And I've come to realize when you stop allowing yourself to be taken advantage of, life becomes so much lighter. 3. The one who lives in the past, always dwelling on what's gone, never looking forward. I once knew a man whose every conversation revolved around the past. He would sigh and say, "Back in the day, life was golden. Everything was better. People were kinder, food tasted better, life was simpler. Now, there's nothing left to enjoy." His stories always led back to his youth, to the days long gone, as if the present no longer mattered. At first I thought reminiscing about the past was a way of cherishing beautiful memories. But then I realized for him the past wasn't something to smile about. It was something that filled him with regret and longing. Every conversation centered around what he had lost, his health, loved ones, youth, and career. There was no room for the present, no space for new joys. I started to notice something. People like this don't just live in nostalgia. They spread their negativity to others. When you repeatedly hear, the past was better than now, you begin to believe it. You start to think, maybe that's true. Maybe there's nothing left to look forward to, and before you even realize it, you've fallen into the same trap, living each day feeling as though everything good has already passed, losing excitement for the future, and dwelling only on what's gone. I've been there. There was a time when, after a long conversation with an old friend, one who only ever talked about the past, I went home feeling unusually heavy-hearted. Suddenly, everything around me felt gloomy. I thought about those who were no longer here, the things I could no longer do, the youthful days I could never get back. That feeling stayed with me for days, until I realized something. I needed to focus on the present, not just mourn the past. After that, I decided to spend more time with people who appreciate the present. People who, even in their 60s, 70s, or even 80s, still find excitement in life. They don't deny the past, but they don't let it stop them from enjoying the here and now. They know how to find joy in small things. A beautiful morning, a delicious meal, a meaningful conversation. When I'm around them, I feel that life still has so much to offer. Of course, I can't completely avoid those who dwell in the past, but I've learned to redirect conversations when they start complaining about what's lost. When someone says, things aren't like they used to be, I gently reply, but thanks to today, we get to sit here and talk to each other. When they say, I used to do so much, but now I can't do anything, I ask, but now you have more time to enjoy life. Have you tried doing something new? If they continue sinking into negativity, I slowly distance myself. I refuse to let myself get pulled into that mindset again. After turning 70, I don't want my days to be filled with regrets. I want to enjoy what I have, no matter how big or small. I want to spend time with people who remind me that life is still worth living. And most importantly, I don't want to become someone who only looks back, forgetting that I still have a path ahead of me. 4. The troublemaker. Wherever they go, drama follows. I used to think that as people got older, they would become calmer, seeking peace and tranquility. But then I realized that some people never stop creating drama, no matter their age. Every interaction with them is never simple. They always bring a series of conflicts, arguments, and endless gossip. One time I visited an old acquaintance. The moment I stepped through the door, she whispered to me, "Do you know what happened? That neighbor down the street had a huge fight with her daughter-in-law yesterday. And guess what? I saw it all with my own eyes. Neither of them would back down." Before I could even respond, she pulled me into a whirlwind of dramatic stories. Who hated whom? Who said what behind someone's back? Who had done something terrible? The entire conversation was filled with negativity. There was no warmth, no sincere concern, no genuine joy. People like this don't live in peace, and they don't allow others to live in peace either. They cannot stand silence. There always has to be a conflict to talk about, an argument to fuel, or a side to take. They love dragging others into unnecessary disputes, forcing you to pick a side, even when you have nothing to do with the matter. And if you try to stay neutral and say, "I don't want to get involved," they will push further. "Oh, come on, I know you have an opinion. You're not like them, are you?" At first, I thought simply listening and staying quiet would be enough. But no, the more you listen, the more you get drawn in. I started to notice that every time I walked away from one of these conversations, I felt mentally exhausted. I carried with me stories that were not my own, problems that had nothing to do with me. And even worse, sometimes, I accidentally became part of the gossip myself. All it took was a simple nod or an unclear comment, and the next day, I could suddenly find myself in the middle of a twisted version of a conversation I never intended to be part of. That was when I had to ask myself, why am I listening to these stories? Why am I letting myself get pulled into other people's conflict? Do I really need this in my life? And the answer was crystal clear. No. So what did I do? I learned to steer clear of gossip and drama. If someone started talking about others behind their backs, I would not encourage them. I wouldn't ask for details or show curiosity. Instead, I would change the subject. Forget about that. Have you heard any good news lately? If they refused to stop, I would find an excuse to leave early. I'd say I had things to do or that I simply wasn't interested. The truth is, Troublemakers never change. They need an audience to keep their drama going, and if you react, you'll only get pulled in deeper. But if you walk away, they'll quickly find someone else to listen. I don't want to waste the rest of my life on pointless gossip and negativity. I choose to spend time with people who bring me peace. People with whom I can have light-hearted conversations, genuine laughter, and uplifting interactions. People who, when I leave their company, make me feel lighter, not burdened with unnecessary conflicts. After 70 years of life, I've realized something important. I don't need to be involved in every story. I don't need to know about every piece of gossip. The only thing I truly need is peace within myself. Choose your circle wisely to live a happier life. I used to think that I needed to maintain all my relationships, that no matter what, friends and family should always be kept close. But as I have grown older, I have come to realize an important truth. Not every relationship is worth continuing. There are people who, after meeting them, leave me feeling happy, relaxed, and even energized with positivity. But then, there are others. People who, every time I walk away from them, leave me feeling burdened, frustrated, and exhausted. And so I asked myself, why do I allow myself to endure this? Life is too short to waste on things that don't matter. If a relationship only brings stress, negativity, and takes from me without giving anything back, then why should I hold on to it? So I started choosing my relationships more carefully. I keep close those who bring me joy, people who genuinely care and encourage me. They don't have to do anything grand. Sometimes all it takes is a heartfelt check-in, a warm conversation, or a simple smile. On the other hand, I distance myself from those who constantly complain, exploit others, or drag me into negativity. I no longer want to spend my time listening to endless grievances, getting involved in conflicts that don't concern me, or being used by people who don't appreciate me. I'm not saying that we should cut off all relationships completely, but we do have the right to choose how we interact with people. If someone consistently brings negativity, I will keep my distance and limit my interactions. If someone disrespects me, I will no longer allow myself to be taken advantage of. The most important lesson I have learned: I have the right to choose who walks with me in my later years. I am no longer young enough to waste time on meaningless things. I want each day to be light, peaceful, and free from unnecessary negativity. Happiness and peace are my choices. No one can take them from me unless I allow it. And if I truly respect myself, I must also respect my time and energy. At the end of the day, old age is not about enduring, it is about enjoying. Enjoying meaningful relationships, enjoying the people who truly appreciate us, and most importantly, enjoying the peace in our hearts. Have you ever encountered the types of people I mentioned? What have you done to protect your own peace? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss out on valuable content. Thank you for watching. Treasure your time and surround yourself with relationships that bring you joy. See you in the next video.